final pre-CM Punk era in AEW Dynamite is in the books. What's up, guys? Good Mike Work back at you on a very rare Wednesday night to talk AEW Dynamite for August 18th, 2021. Show was fantastic. They were live from Houston this evening. Very good show. Started out really hot and finished up with a pretty strong main event. And now we are on the road to Rampage in 2 days, where CM Punk is going to make his big debut in All Elite Wrestling in front of a jam-packed United Center crowd. It's going to be pretty awesome. Hats off to AEW for showing some willpower there and not promoting the fuck out of this and actually just letting it happen organically or whatever the hell they're going to plan on doing on Friday. It's going to be quite the moment for the fans, and I think AEW knows that the fans already know, and aside from Kenny Omega's Chick Magnet shirt, there really wasn't a whole lot of references to CM Punk tonight. So I'm ready for Friday. I don't know about y'all, and I've got some information on Friday coming up here in just a minute, but hopefully we'll have a decent audience in here tonight since you guys are not used to seeing me on Wednesday evenings. As we get into the fall and winter months, my work schedule and stuff will get a lot easier, and I'm going to attempt to be off for as many Wednesdays as possible, and I should be able to get off for most of them. So I'll be up here more often talking Dynamite. If nothing else, I'll be up here on Thursday afternoons to talk about it instead, but I want to incorporate Dynamite now into my new kind of YouTube schedule that I'm trying to revamp at the moment. So once we get into the fall, we should have some pretty good consistency going on in the channel. So between now and then, it'll be a little bit weird, but this will be a fun night just to come up here randomly on a Wednesday, talk a little bit about Dynamite, talk about the pretty good wrestling that we saw tonight. Great opening match with Sting and Darby Allin. Absolutely hysterical and very entertaining. And the main event, I think the right decision was made there. MJF is who I'd put over in that situation, and Jericho, since coming into AEW, while he's had a run on top, he's just done a phenomenal job of not only working with, but putting over a lot of the talent, and a lot of that talent is, you know, kind of homegrown AEW type guys. And that's admirable by Jericho. So he went through those long labors of Jericho, 4 grueling matches to get to MJF at the end, and he comes up short and actually submits for the finish. So that's a great way to put MJF over. There was a lot of discussion tonight about MJF and CM Punk, and that is a promo battle that I think we're all waiting to see. But I think, it takes a little bit of time to get to that as well, and I think CM Punk coming onto the scene and working with Darby Allin or something will be really, really fun from a wrestling match perspective, and then maybe you transition shortly after into something with CM Punk and MJF, because that's going to be pretty magical on the mic, especially if they're allowed to have the gloves off. And you talk about, a sink or swim moment for MJF, a career-making moment. Can you hang CM Punk? Even though he's been off for a while, I don't think he's going to sweat the stage that he'll be on, compared to where he's been before and the stages that he's already competed on and everything he's done in his career, and how comfortable overall he is on the microphone. And if one of these guys is able to trip up the other, going back to the summer of Punk 10 years ago when Punk was doing all that stuff with Triple H and John Cena, he was holding his own against everybody and, doing a pretty good job in the process. So now you got this, this young buck MJF, who I believe met CM Punk when he was a kid and probably idolized him to a large degree. To see those two clash on the mic down the road, that's going to make for some really good television, but that's not something I'm going to rush. I'm not going to throw that on all out. At least I'm not. I would kind of wait to do something like that and build it a little bit more. So we'll see. But Friday is going to be exciting for Rampage. We have to talk about this Dynamite first, and then we will talk a lot about Rampage and Summerslam coming up and anything else we want to discuss wrestling news-wise, including the Ric Flair doppelganger that apparently was, let's just say, having a good time on a train with a lady friend of his. Turns out that it's not Ric Flair. Ric Flair doesn't do trains, and he said as much today, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that and, preview what's ahead. If you're here in the chat, please do me a favor and smash the thumbs up, because we do not have a huge audience in here right now, so this video is going to need all the help it can get on that front. Let me just say hello to everybody that's here in the chat and knock out any super chats, which I just see one. Joshua Aparicio, thank you very much, my friend, for the $4.99. Hey, Greg, awesome. Yo, awesome to see you as always, I assume you mean there. At first, I thought the Chick Magnet shirt on Omega was in reference to The Miz, not CM Punk. Dynamite was a 9. Dynamite was a 9. I'd give it a high grade, maybe not quite a 9. I thought it was going to be a 9 the way the show started. Those first 2 matches, I don't know how you could have asked for anything more out of those. Extremely entertaining and 2 very, very different matches to open up the show. And I think it closed pretty strong. I might go more of an 8 for my grade. But you thought the Chick Magnet shirt was a reference to The Miz. I don't know why it would be on The Miz. Has The Miz claimed to be a Chick Magnet before? And that's what the CM and CM Punk stands for. Omega also a few weeks back wore the Cookie Monster shirt, which CM Punk jokingly referred to as the meaning of CM when he was asked that one time. He said Cookie Monster. So Omega's, doing his best to troll and doing his best to, to feed into it. And I think that's the best way to handle this. The AEW crowd is supposed to be the more, half knowledgeable wrestling fans. A lot of them are younger, and a lot of fans don't need to be given, commercials on TV to know something is going to happen. They all know. So just the little teases, the little subtle hints by the talent, wearing a shirt, saying something in a promo, dropping a little hint here or there. I almost prefer that type of promotion for us, the fans, when it comes to like an upcoming event. Promote it that way. Promote it in a way that the kids can understand. You know what I mean? And I think they've kind of done this right, and I applaud them for not spilling the beans and letting everybody know on Dynamite to tune in on Rampage. CM Punk's going to open the show. He's returning to wrestling for the first time since God knows when. I'm glad they're just going to let it all play out on Friday. It's only an hour-long show, so we're not going to have to wait for long to see what happens. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Good to see Kaylin Scott, Diet Wadka, Michael Cuomo, Joshua is here as well. Thank you for the super chat again. Colin and Ben and Deshaun and Barry and How Weezy and Nathan and John. Might be a couple Johns in here. And Harvey Walsh, hello. Good to see you in here. Yeah, I guess, yikes, I don't know if anybody's even going to be tuning into this stream tonight. I'm not sure. But hopefully they will, because we got lots to get into, including I've got some news for you guys on what to expect from me this week. My plans have changed just a little bit. Now, yesterday on social media and on YouTube, I announced that I was going to be up here tonight for the AEW Dynamite review, and I'm going to be up here tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. The link is in the description below for SummerSlam and NXT Takeover predictions. So we're going to be up here tomorrow afternoon to predict both pay-per-views for the weekend. Now, my plan originally was to leave this coming Friday for SummerSlam. I'm going to SummerSlam in Vegas, and I'm just going to drive there because I only live about 5 hours away. So the plan was to drive up Friday morning, and get to the hotel, or drive up and get there Friday afternoon, get into the hotel, and then go find like a sports bar or something like that to watch Rampage. And I've been kind of looking around for places to do that. Well, something has kind of come up in personal life, and we have decided that instead of leaving Friday morning, we're just going to leave Friday night instead. Friday's kind of a busy day. It's going to be hard to, dedicate a whole day to get up to Vegas early when we really don't have to be. We just need to be there for Saturday. So as it turns out, I'm going to be here home on Friday night for AEW Rampage, which means I'll come up and do a review. So you're going to get me the next 3 nights in a row. Tonight, tomorrow for predictions, and Friday night for an AEW Rampage review. We'll also touch on whatever takes place on the Go Home SmackDown. And then literally when I'm done streaming, that's when we're hopping in the car and driving to Vegas. So I'm going to drive throughout the night to get there for Saturday to be live at SummerSlam, which means the only stream I'm really going to miss is Saturday night for SummerSlam, because I'll be back in the hotel getting some rest, and then I'll be back home the next day to watch TakeOver and come up and do a review. So not only will I be up Sunday, then of course Monday I'll be at Raw here in San Diego, but we'll even try to get home and do a review that night as well. It will just be a little late. So you're getting me like every day for the next 5 or so days, with the exception of Saturday itself, the day of SummerSlam. I won't be able to come up here and do a review unless I do a quick little video on my phone and just post it to YouTube. Very, very basic amateur style. I could do that. But otherwise, you won't hear from me Saturday. You'll just have to hear about all of my SummerSlam experiences on Sunday when we do the TakeOver review. So a little bit of an update for you now. I will be here to talk about CM Punk on Friday, and I'm excited to see it. At least I know now I've got a place where I can comfortably watch CM Punk's return to wrestling instead of trying to fight to try to find a place and watch it in a bar or watch it in my hotel room. At least I'm here in my own kind of environment, and it's going to be a blast. So keep that in mind for Friday. I'll have a link posted for that review either tonight or tomorrow sometime. And I'll definitely have it up by the time we do the predictions tomorrow afternoon. So there's a little scheduling update for you. We won't waste too much time on the pleasantries here, since the audience probably will not be very big. We'll go ahead and run through these results, and I'll go ahead and get out of here and get ready for tomorrow's big prediction stream, which will have a ton to talk about. Michael Cuomo was in the house as well. I'm not sure if I got you earlier. The Zohan is here. Miz had a Chick Magnet shirt in 08 and 09. Oh, did he? Oh, gross. AEW is better than Raw. I definitely agree with that. Barry, you're going to spam the stream with Super Chats so you'll be late for the plane. Oh, we're not flying. I'm driving. Hopping in the whip and just driving right out there in the desert. So I can't miss anything. I can kind of take my time. I can get out of here whenever I want. So it's kind of nice. And I stay up all night anyway, so it's no big deal for us to drive through the night because we're always awake. So decided today to make that change to the schedule, which in a way is good because now it puts me here on Friday night to do a review. And that's good for the channel. It's good for business, good for views, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind for Friday. Anywho, the news I wanted to get into was the Ric Flair stuff. That's really it. I didn't jot down any other wrestling news today, but if you saw the picture of what appeared to be Ric Flair from a side view from the back with some woman down on a train and her legs are spread and he's diving in there, and everybody thought it was Ric Flair, but come on, Ric Flair on a train in New Jersey? Give me a break. So he tweeted out that it was not him and he would never ride transportation like that, which I thought was funny. But if you look at it, it sure as hell does look like him. Any other wrestling news today I didn't really catch other than, a few hints dropped by Adam Cole about his Twitch channel sticking around and things like that. So his future is still a little bit up in the air. Not quite sure what's going on there. And I did catch NXT last night, which was very good. The opener with Roddy and Dragunov was fantastic, and Indy Hartwell proposing to Dexter Lumis on her birthday, with Beth Phoenix being a big part of that. I got a huge kick out of it, especially when Beth went to give Indy the ring, and Wade Barrett's like, what's going on? And she's like, zip it, Barrett, and just screams at him in the funniest line of the night, and then Indy proposes to Dexter. He says yes, and it was a very tearful moment, and was awesome, and very, very happy for Index. So NXT was not bad. Showdown with Karrion Kross and the big brawl between Kross and Samoa Joe was also good. Looking forward to those two guys just tearing each other limb from limb at TakeOver. And even though NXT's got its problems right now, and I think we're a little bit bummed out and disappointed with some of the things that have transpired recently on, in that brand, TakeOver still looks pretty good. It might be one of our final really good takeovers. The magic is really kind of gone. Remember what they were like in 2015, 16, 17, 18. Just remember, how awesome they were, and look at, what they've been reduced to. But the card itself is still very strong and could easily, pack a house back in the old days of AEW. But they're confined to the CWC, I suppose. But it still looks good, and I'll still be here watching it Sunday night. Very interested to see some of the results, and if they just go right and pass the belt to Joe, or if they actually keep it on Kross and he just works Raw matches as the NXT champion. I don't think that's really a good idea. If you want him on the main roster full time, he's going to be traveling and stuff, so it's going to be really hard for him to maintain the title. So putting it on Samoa Joe makes a lot of sense. However, it doesn't make much sense for this narrative we've heard about WWE going with younger guys. Joe fits the bill to be bigger, but not necessarily younger. And he's been a bit injury prone, and he's in his 40s. So I guess right now the way it looks is he's just probably the best option to hold the title. He's probably more of a transitional champion when you think about it. If it turns out that he does beat Karrion Kross, hopefully he'll be used in a transitional sense, but he'll also have a healthy run to where when the person does knock him off, it does feel like a big deal, and hopefully it'll elevate somebody. So I guess that's what I'm hoping they can accomplish out of that, if that's indeed the case on Sunday. But we'll get into the full predictions on that tomorrow, and I got to kind of rethink the card and make sure I get everything nice the way I want it before I give you guys my full picks for TakeOver and for SummerSlam. So anyway, let's get into AEW Dynamite tonight. They were live from Houston. Excellent atmosphere, as always, on a Dynamite. That's what I love about Dynamite that's different from Raw, is it has much less of a cookie-cutter type feel. Every crowd looks slightly different. because the stage configuration and everything like that isn't exactly the same. WWE's set has turned now into this Lego set that just snaps together, and they've got it all perfect, and it goes the same way every time, and they never get creative. They never look around, they never survey the building and say, what can we do differently? They don't do that anymore. They don't even do it for pay-per-views. And AEW still doing it on a relatively weekly basis is a lot of fun. Sometimes the ramp is angled, sometimes the ramp is straight, sometimes the ramp is over here. I like all the different things that they're doing and how the crowd and the shows and the venues they go to, because they are a little bit smaller arenas, they have different kind of vibes to them. And that's exactly what wrestling fans need, a little bit of variety, a breath of fresh air, something different. Something that's just not rehashed and recycled and chewed up and spit out the exact same way we just saw it, that we've been so used to for close to the last 20 years now. So that's refreshing. I like that, when you see that type of stuff. And the crowds at all of these shows in recent weeks have been super hot for the events. They're there to have a good time. And I feel like that's kind of the energy you get more at that type of show. Where at WWE, you have a lot of people there to have a good time. You have families there. You have kids there, all there to see their heroes. But you have a large portion of the audience there that, is, going to try to sabotage the show and is kind of disgusted with everything and heckles and shit like that. Dynamite just seems like everybody's just really, really wants to try to have a good time as best they can. So crowd was into it from the beginning. Of course, they did the right thing here, opening up with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston to Wild Thing. Crowds are going nuts. They don't make it very far. They start coming down through the audience, and they're attacked by 2.0, who actually has a match on Dynamite tonight against Sting and Darby Allin. Sting returning to wrestling on TNT for the first time in 20 years since that final Nitro. This is kind of a big deal, and they kind of have a big match. So why they choose to attack Moxley and Eddie, I'm not sure. They beat the crap out of them. Sting and Darby then come out to try to help out and make the save, and there you go. Right after that, we are into our first match, 2.0 versus Sting and Darby Allin. And for a lot of us who were worried for Sting being in the ring at his age when he first came into AEW, and even I was saying, he's not going to do much. He might, get in there for a show or something, but I wouldn't worry about him being a regular competitor or anything like that. When he's been in there and the few times he's been in the ring for an actual sanctioned match, he has not looked bad, and they had a really fun little match out. What a huge thrill for 2.0. If I was them, I would be so happy. They've made out better than anyone. Maybe Malachi Black in this recent batch of releases, to where they're like, man, what a relief. It might have been a shock at first to get let go, but aren't you happy we did? Otherwise we're just on NXT. We're probably getting over with a certain portion of the audience because we are entertaining the portion of the audience that can actually see us. But even if we do get over and we do get more opportunities and we do get let's say, moved to the main roster, what's really going to happen to us there? We're going to be doing a bunch of dumb shit every week, and we're going to be a complete fucking joke. And, this is better. They're in the ring with Sting, and one of the most over stars in all of AEW. They moved up immensely, in their transition over to AEW. So that was a big signing for them. And those guys are entertaining and deserve their spot. And that shit that they did leading up to this match has all been really good. So we've got the match going. Sting is in the ring throwing stinger splashes. He does not look horrible. Match spills out into the crowd. They're brawling through the crowd a little bit. Darby takes a headshot on like a doorway. They're doing all sorts of moves on the cement. They find themselves back into the ring. We've got weapons and we've got tables. Sting takes a double power bomb from 2.0 through the table. Takes a table bump at his age, and on top of that, he no-sells it. Gets right back up, beats the shit out of 2.0, hits them with a double Scorpion death drop, which was impressive enough, and then he rolls them over. I've never seen this done before. I cannot believe nobody's tried it, and I can't believe Brett's never tried it, but Sting stacks up both 2.0 guys and puts them both simultaneously in the Scorpion Deathlock. And it actually looked pretty good. He rolls them both over. They both sell like $1 million for him, and he's got it cinched back. And they submit a double submission, double Scorpion Deathlock. I'm going to tell my kids that Brett did it first, but really good stuff there. And the funny thing is, I've always been a big critic of Sting for his application of the Scorpion Deathlock or the sharpshooter. He puts it on so bad. He's got one of the worst ones of anybody, and it's his finisher. where, Rock used it sparingly, and Cesaro would sometimes use it as a finisher, but Cesaro did it right. And Sting just never cinched back on it. He was always like hunched over. Whatever he was doing to the guy, it didn't even look like it hurt, and just did not look like a good move. And I thought for Sting to use that as a finisher was an insult to me as a wrestling fan because he sucked at putting it on. But here, somehow, he makes this double Scorpion Deathlock look really good, and the two guys are just fucking screaming. They tap out. It was a glorious moment. That match was everything it needed to be. It wasn't too long, and key word here, it was extremely entertaining. If you're going to get hung up on a 61-year-old no-selling a table, then you know what? You're just no fucking fun. Not only do you no-sell tables, you no-sell fun, because you're no fun, and you must be fucking miserable. Take it for what it is, a fun, entertaining wrestling match. Great way to open up the show, get the crowd going. It gave us a lot of great things, a lot of entertaining moments, and it gave, two young stars a chance to get over even more, get a big rub from a legend like Sting, put a legend like Sting back in the ring on TNT for older fans like myself who can really appreciate that sort of thing, and they didn't do anything too ridiculous. Sting is not beating Kenny Omega and winning the AEW title. If they go there, then we'll have a whole different conversation about this stuff. But in terms of Sting's usage, look at the people he was in the ring with tonight. Look at the 4 guys he was in the ring with tonight. All young, up-and-coming, new stars. Darby is getting increasingly over, not only on his own, but with the addition of Sting, and he's given a nice rub to a couple of young guys. If Sting's not in there with Mark Henry and Big Show, he's in there with young guys. So the utilization of a legend like that has actually been done really well. This is what I would prefer WWE to do with Goldberg. If they did this with Goldberg, I would be all for Goldberg being in the ring more, and I would even commend him on being in ridiculous shape for his age. If he was in there working with, I don't know, what's a young fucking tag team, the Street Profits or somebody like that, or if he was mentoring, somebody else, somebody young. I can't think of any names right now on the WWE roster. Just think of someone. Think of somebody very young. Could be his own fucking son for all we know. But if he was just working with guys, maybe acting as a manager and an occasional wrestler for one, and teaming up with him to take on other, young talent to give them experience in there with him. And he can still win and shit, but it's just like not at the top. It's not like taking the belt. It's taking a legend and using him to help out talent that's going to be on your TV screen for many years to come. This is how I would prefer it done, as compared to how WWE does it. So I think anybody who criticizes Sting and getting in the ring, you're just no fun. Bottom line. Anyway, that was a fun match. After that, we get a replay of what took place earlier on, I guess off air or prior to the show. Tony Schiavone, or maybe it was on Dark. Maybe it was on something, their pre-show, whatever the fuck. So Tony Schiavone's got Sammy Guevara in the ring. They're talking about him giving the contract to Fuego del Sol last week. And then Sammy starts cutting a promo about his career and how long it took him to get here. And then he's talked about his fiance, who he's been with for 8 years, and thanks her for all of the support and actually calls her in the ring. And decides to propose to her right there. Kind of took her off guard, although her being called into the ring, she had to suspect at least something here. But Sammy, I guess he kind of played it off well. He's like, you know what, forget it. Come on in here. Come on. I forget her name. I feel bad. He's like, come on in here. And so she does. And then he gets down on one knee and he proposes to her. She says yes. Crowd was very, very into it. Very good moment. Congratulations to Sammy Guevara and his girlfriend of 8 years, apparently. That's a long time. And Sammy Guevara is not old, which means they have been together probably since early high school or something like that, maybe senior year or not even. So I'm not sure Sammy's age, but he's young. So 8 years ago puts him in teenage territory. So they've been together forever, it seems like. And he's got a match later on coming up next, actually, against Shawn Spears. We then cut to a Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard promo where Spears says, wow, slim pickings in Houston, huh? Holy shit. That was funny, I guess. And talks a little shit to Sammy Guevara, and their match is up next. We go to commercial, we come back, and they just hit us with, AEW did, with a brilliant 1-2 punch here. The first match was not too long, very, very entertaining, and, was just keyword fun. This one had a little bit more of a personal issue, and the match was also longer, and the match was a lot more violent with a lot less comedy going on in this one, and it was really good. They just had themselves a hell of a match here, throwing each other all over the place, from post to post, into barricades, top rope shit, just letting it all hang out there. They get near the end of the match, and there's just an incredible sequence of moves on Spears by Guevara, starting with a huge, with some serious airtime, huge top rope cutter onto Shawn Spears, which my only criticism there is a move like that really needs to be the finish of a match. I mean, that was just a tremendous spot. The airtime, the hang time they got while they were coming down to the mat was like you could have listened to a fucking Beatles song. So he hits him with that. Spears kicks out. Then he nails him with a senton for another near fall. And near the end, I kind of didn't catch where it happened, but it definitely happened to Spears. He got caught in the head somewhere and got busted open really bad, really, really bad. Blood was all over him. It was all over Sammy Guevara, but it happened like right at the last 30 seconds of the match. And I don't know what Sammy calls his GTS-like move. I forget, but he winds up hitting that in Shawn Spears and knocking him out and pinning him for the win after all of the insane punishment they put each other through. There was even I think it was Spears that took it, not Guevara. Spears took the Death Valley Driver on the barricade, right? That metal barricade that they had bridged across the other part of the barricade and the ring, and he took a bump onto that. That was before, I believe, the top rope cutter and the senton. All of that stuff, or the senton, all of that stuff were near falls. So Spears survived a lot and then finally succumbed to the finisher at the end. And just a hell of a match. They beat the hell out of each other, and that really, I think, helped the toughness aspect of Sammy Guevara, and props to Spears for not only selling to him like crazy, but putting him over. I mean, that was a really good match, and it makes Sammy, it helps his badass persona because he's young. He looks like a child, I don't even think he can grow a beard. So, a guy like that who's just still a little bit young, just still a little bit very, very young looking, he's manned up in a lot of these matches, and he's shown that he is tough as nails, despite his appearance. And this was a good, hard-fought, solid win for him. I'm glad they didn't do too much extracurricular. I'm glad that there wasn't a million people coming out there to interfere, and it was just a good fight between two dudes, and Sammy Guevara wins. After the match, he's covered in Shawn Spears' blood, and he goes out to kiss his fiancée, who's still at ringside, and just kissing her, and she's touching his face with all that blood on it. It reminded me of the ending of Die Hard, and that was pretty funny in the end. So congrats to Sammy Guevara on a big night. Not only he picked up a big win against Shawn Spears, but he is now going to be getting married to his longtime girlfriend. Always happy to see that, and good luck. Good luck to the young couple. GTH, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, the Spanish sex god, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Angel Garza, because remember Angel Garza proposed to his girlfriend in NXT? Now that was kind of done off, I think during commercial break, and then they showed a replay or something of it, right? Kind of done the same way, actually, that Sammy Guevara's was done. So the fact that Angel Garza got to the main roster and then became like the ladies' man and the womanizer, and he was passing out roses to everybody. That was kind of funny. So I don't know if he's still going to be the Spanish sex god or not, but happy that they got that moment. Sting's, oh man, what did I see that about Sting and Flair? Give us Sting and Flair. I don't know. I don't know if we want Sting and Flair. I'm not a fan of Ric Flair really getting in the ring and having a match. What he did at Triple Mania is really the extent of what I need to see from him, but you never know. You never know. Flair has been known to do crazier shit. Oh, yeah, Divine Ricks. That's right. I had forgotten about that match. Jericho and MJF had a similar stip as Survivor Series 07 did when HBK wasn't allowed to use the super kick against Randy Orton. I kind of forgot about that. Not using the Judas effect was going to be a big deal. And I got to say, I don't know how they did it in the live crowd or if they did anything to help cue the audience, but I was surprised. I was worried how they were going to sing Judas. Clearly, they were going to do it. That was the point of making the stipulation, is so the fans could sing it. So you knew they were going to do it, and AEW was talking it up all week. But I didn't think the fans would be able to stay in sync. I didn't think that they would be able to belt that out properly and like sing the whole song without being all on top of each other or whatever. And they did it. They did it pretty well. I was actually surprised. It went much better than I thought. I should say that. So I was actually kind of impressed with the fans' ability to sing that song. It was pretty good. So yeah, Dynamite was fun tonight, and that's all I can ask out of that show. I mean, they give us that pretty much on a weekly basis. They give us fun shit, and when it comes to wrestling, WWE or AEW, that's all I ask. Just don't give me dumb shit or boring shit. Give me fun shit. And right now, AEW's winning that battle. After that, we go backstage. New Impact champion Christian's back there, talking with Don Callis. And, you know, I got to say, I don't like the way either one of these networks, USA or TNT, or WWE or AEW, I should say, whenever they've got the word shit planned in a line, the delivery is always like almost, it's almost telegraphed, because a lot of what's the first couple of sentences leading up to the shit line is just a whole lot of jumble, and you can tell they're just getting ready to let it all out. And Christian has to once again say, Don Callis, and then he pauses, you're nothing but a carny piece of shit. Taz does the same thing. He just doesn't they're not making using the word shit very cool. It doesn't feel unscripted. It doesn't feel off the cuff. It doesn't feel like somebody losing their temper and letting it out. It feels like a very, very scripted line, because it is. You know, they're allowed to say shit. Both networks now, this is how they're competing with each other. I think AEW started it, and then WWE said, oh, yeah, we can say shit too. So now they both get to say shit like once or twice a week. I don't know what the official rule is or how many times they can say it, but you hear it every week. It has to be stuck in a promo somewhere, and to me, that takes away from it. You know, I mean, and obviously you can't tell people, oh, it's okay to say shit, because then everybody's going to do it or whatever. But, you know, the times that they have scripted it to happen, it's never comes out sounding good. And they did the same thing on Raw, right? Lashley was talking, and then Goldberg just says, that's bullshit. That's it. Like, he just built up. It's not anything like when Brett snapped on Raw in 97, pushed down Vince. This is bullshit. You thought for real that Brett literally snapped in real life. He's gone off the script. It's live TV. You can't stop him. He shoved down Vince, who retreats. You know, he doesn't even sell it in an over-exaggerated, embellished professional wrestling way. He goes down like a ton of bricks and leaves and stares at him, and Brett's just mouthing off on the mic. Like, that's what feels like real and original and stuff. So I almost think that neither show should even worry about saying shit, you know, like, yeah, you can say it once or twice in a show, but don't go out of your way to say it. Just let it happen. And then whoever says it first, and then you're done. And then you have to say, okay, if anybody else had shit in their promo tonight, you have to get it out of there or something. I don't know. Just make it feel like a little bit less planned, because they all feel planned. So Christian and Callis just jaw-jack with each other, and Christian calls him a carny piece of shit again. Wow. Speaking of promos, then we get this Dan Lambert fucker out there again. Now, I'm not really familiar with him, and once I kind of looked him up, I'm like, man, how did I miss him? Or at least I've probably heard of him or just, you know, forgot. But a lot of people knew who he was. I did not. And he's been doing the deal with Lance Archer lately. He's almost, in a lot of ways, playing the role of a Jim Cornette, the way he's trashing AEW and calling it not real and shit like that. But he's more of a UFC guy or a MMA guy. And he was teasing that he was going to bring some backup with him this week. And he's got that backup in the form of Junior Dos Santos and Andre Arlovsky. Now, Andre is former UFC champion, I think. I don't really follow that much of MMA or UFC, but he's got them as backup, and he just starts cutting this blistering promo, you know, and where I think he differs from Jim Cornette is, you know, he's just Dan Lambert guy. He sounds like one of those guys that's just so cancel culture lives rent free in his head. It consumes him. And you guys know the people I'm talking about. You know, I'll be the first one to admit that cancel culture is fucking annoying, and it's silly at times. And there's definitely been many occasions where I've rolled my eyes at somebody getting canceled for something they said. However, I do not allow cancel culture or SJWs or woke shit consume my life. You see these people on Twitter, just go to their timeline. It's just an endless scroll of misery, angry, yelling, screaming tweets about woke people and cancel culture and libtards and all this shit. It's like, my God, I don't think there's anything in life that could ever give me that type of anger where I'm so goddamn crazy obsessed with it to where it's all I talk about. It's all I care about. Every tweet, every comment is something about how you're angry at like woke people. And it's just like, okay, if that's what you want to spend your time hating on, that's fine. That's where I feel like a little bit of the Dan Lambert and Jim Cornette stuff, Dan Lambert is kind of playing the role of Cornette, but they're not really that much the same. There's probably plenty of doubt about Dan Lambert that Jim Cornette would not agree with. And but in terms of the anti-AEW vibe that he gives, I think he achieves that. He's really good at being a douchebag. You know, he's a pretty good promo, very Jim Cornette-like and very, very easy to hate. So his delivery was actually really good. But again, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here with this fucking angry, bitter, stick-up-his-ass snowflake that's so fucking angry at cancel culture you can't think straight. They're everywhere. So I don't know how long something like that can really take a gimmick or take a storyline, especially when the big bad backup he had tonight, which I was very interested in to see what was going to happen, because Lambert was calling out, I think Archer or anybody in the AEW locker room, come out, test us, see what you got. I was like, this is actually kind of interesting, especially since CM Punk is about to be coming in the door here. And this is a guy that did not do too well in MMA and UFC. So it'll be interesting to see if there's ever any crossover here with Lambert and Punk, maybe being in the ring, the things that Lambert can say to him and Punk can say back. But that's beside the point. Anyway, I was curious what was going to happen. And then Lance Archer comes barreling out of the entranceway, and he looks like he's making a beeline to take on all three of them until he's jumped from behind by Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. And they just kind of brawl to the back, and we never got any sort of a payoff with Lambert and his boys. So again, I don't know where this is going. I half like the angle. I half don't. I'm not sure where I stand on it. I do know one thing. Dan Lambert's a fantastic heel, and he can cut that heel promo. And, he probably echoes a lot of, what some fans actually think, and you might be able to actually build some real good heat and some alliances here, or, kind of get the attention of, a certain type of audience that's mad and angry and pissed off all the time. They should love Dan Lambert. They should make him their banner picture on their social media. So it's interesting that they're, kind of going that direction. We'll see how it goes. They picked a guy that does a pretty good job of talking. So I'm not sure where to go yet. And if he brings in more MMA guys like this to be there for real and they do start getting in the ring, that should be interesting too. So I don't know. Fun stuff anyway, though. Anytime he's going to open up his mouth and cut a promo, should be pretty good. Oh, Jet the Hawk, I think I saw that. I saw that Alex was there. Yeah, Houston, right? Okay, hopefully he had a good time. I'm ready for AEW to get out here to the West Coast. I will definitely go to the first Dynamite that's within driving distance. If they're out here in San Diego, if they're in LA, if they're in Phoenix, if they're in Vegas, maybe next time Double or Nothing comes around, I'll make the trip to Vegas and go. Because the only AEW show I've really ever been to is the Dynamite on the boat on the Jericho cruise, when Hangman and Kenny won the tag team titles. So I'm ready to go to one and experience this, because it looks like a pretty fun vibe and pretty fun atmosphere. After the Dan Lambert promo, we go backstage to cut to Chris Jericho to cut a promo, and he's just talking about the match later on with MJF and that he's going to beat him and blah, blah, blah. And then we get the AEW tag team title match that was advertised. Young Bucks defending the titles against the Jurassic Express. The Young Bucks have 15 people coming out to the ring with them. They've got the Good Brothers, Don Callis, and Brandon Cutler all coming out. This entourage of people joining the Young Bucks at ringside to take on Jurassic Express, who only have Marco Stunt in their corner. So this was a super fun match. This thing was all over the place. The Bucks and Jungle Boy were doing some great shit here. Jungle Boy kicks out of a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff, including the Indie Taker. He's got the Bucks on the ropes a couple of times. I thought he had Matt Jackson pinned at one point until Nick made the save at the last minute. Lots of good near falls during all of this. Kenny Omega winds up showing up near the end of the match. He comes out there in his chick magnet shirt. Marco Stunt is kind of standing on the middle rope, trying to shout out, instructions or help to Jungle Boy, and Kenny whacks Marco on the back with a chair. Then Christian shows up. Christian comes down the ramp and spears Kenny Omega. They start brawling to the back. That's when Jungle Boy picks up the chair, uses the chair on Matt, goes for the cover. You think he's got the match won, but Nick makes the save at the last minute. I really thought Jurassic Express might win the tag team titles there, even though I didn't think this was the time to put the belts or take the belts off of the Bucks. They had me fooled for that one split second in the near fall. we see Jurassic Express hit their finisher for a near fall after that, before more Good Brothers interference finally causes the tables to be turned. We get a BTE trigger on Jungle Boy, and the Bucks retain the title in a really fun, all over the place match with a shit ton of outside interference, and they were making that a big deal the whole time. The fact that a bunch of guys were out there, and we'll talk about that in a bit with what they made for, or coming up for, All Out. But the beatdown would continue after the match. Christian is back out there with Omega. All the Elite members beat the hell out of Christian, and Kenny hits the one-winged angel on him as Don Callis counts the 3. So these guys, in fact, are going to have 2 matches. I thought for sure that the second match at All Out would get changed or something like that. But it feels like, based on where they're going here in this, in this angle, that it actually is going to happen, and Christian is not going to be replaced last minute with Hangman Page. At least I don't think, unless this is a way to write Christian off TV and Hangman takes his place, but I don't think so. I think Hangman's going to be taking that time off, coming back to challenge for the title down the line. But Christian probably will not win the AEW title at All Out. That's my guess. Kenny will hang on to it. And Kenny is still the mega champion too. I still think he could drop that belt to Andrade in some sort of a rematch down the road. But I'm hoping for Hangman when he comes back. After that, we got Britt Baker promo backstage, bringing in Jamie Hayter, introducing her to everybody. Jamie says that she goes way back with Britt, and Britt talked about how she's been sick of this bullshit, and she's been talking about getting some extra backup and some extra help. She has that now in the form of Jamie Hayter, and she's a badass-looking girl, man, so I'm glad that she's joined Britt's little kind of stable or group there, and she's a star. She's a champion. This is a good way to get, Jamie Hayter some good TV time now, just like it's done wonders for Rebel. So that was all good there. Good to see Jamie there as some real powerful backup for Britt Baker. Then we get Paul White. We get the Giant interviewed with Tony Schiavone right in the middle of the ring on TNT. And he's been having an issue lately with QT Marshall and the Factory or whatever. So he's in the interview with Tony. They're really good friends, and I think he came out to save Tony from a beatdown on Dark or Elevation or whatever it was. I have to get better at watching a little bit more of that. But he's talking with Tony. QT Marshall and Camarado and the other dude come out to the ramp. They start talking, and they go back and forth, and QT insults Big Show's Paul White's age and his titanium hip, and a bunch of other shit. And Show goes on to, trade insults back and forth with him before revealing that he's got a little surprise for QT Marshall. And he says, "I'm going to clue you in, plugs." Calls him plugs. The fact that I know me and Big Show, of all people, making fun of people with hair issues is dripping with irony, but I still thought that it was a hilarious line because Marshall already kind of wears like the bowling outfit, and he kind of got the dad bod going on, and he's losing his hair at a young age, and Big Show called him plugs. I fucking popped for that. He goes, "I'm going to cue you in, plugs. Me and you have got a match at All Out." So that match is now added to the pay-per-view. I'd be cool with them putting that on the buy-in or something like that. A Paul White match on a pay-per-view is not something I need. But again, look at who Paul White is working with. So before anybody freaks out and starts complaining, you got to understand, if you can't recognize how some of these legends are being used, then you're just not paying attention. This could be good. I'm assuming, and I'm hoping anyway, the QT Marshall gets the win. Paul White, what the fuck good is it for him to win at this point? He hasn't really been in the ring yet, though, so if it's his first match back, maybe they'll put him over here. But I'm sure that Paul White is going to be taking some losses, and he could take a big one on pay-per-view. So I know his match isn't going to be anything that special, but, he's a legend. He's a guy that's been in the business multiple decades with multiple championships and multiple promotions. A lot of rub he can give, to a younger guy like Marshall, in terms of, where Paul White ranks in the world of legends. It's not like huge up there with the big ones, just like QT Marshall doesn't rank right up there with the greats in AEW. So like they're the perfect sized AEW guy with the perfect sized legend, and it's going to mesh perfectly together, and Paul White can put him over in the end, whether it be at All Out or somewhere else. So, it's probably not going to be Meltzer's favorite match, or probably ours either, as long as they keep it kind of short, doesn't take up too much time, or if they put it on the buy-in, I don't care. It's good for QT, you know? And I know QT isn't everybody's favorite either, but I don't have anything against him. I do like his nickname plugs. I will say that. Then we go backstage. This is a fallout from the tag team match earlier on. We get the entire Elite back there cutting a promo. They're with Tony, or interviewed, I should say, with Tony Schiavone. And they're happy and they're bragging because the Bucks are still the champs, and any sort of problems that may exist between the Bucks and Omega based on how that last match went with Christian, seems to be a non-issue. They're all together. The Good Brothers are there. And Tony announces that, I guess it's Tony Khan, says he's sick of this shit or whatever, so they're sick of all this outside interference because it took a lot to get the job done there for the Young Bucks. So they announced that there's going to be a tag team eliminator tournament. He even rolled through all the teams. I didn't hear them all. I heard Varsity Blondes. I heard Private Party. I heard Lucha Brothers. And I forget the other ones, but it's going to be an eliminator tournament, and the winner of the tournament will face the Young Bucks for the AEW tag team titles at All Out inside a steel cage, which should negate all of that extracurricular help the Elite tends to have in their matches. So putting them inside a cage should keep the Good Brothers out or whatnot. I'm not convinced that will do it. I think when, the Bucks finally do lose the titles, I don't know if I want it to be against a team that was just determined in an eliminator tournament. I want them to lose it to a team that's got an issue with them or gets revenge on them or something like that can make it a big deal. But it depends on who wins the eliminator tournament as well. If it's, it could be Penta and Phoenix, which we'll talk about in a minute with those guys, because I have a feeling they might wind up joining Andrade. And I also think Andrade could very well still win that AAA title from Kenny Omega in the future. They might have just put it off. So you could have a whole lot of gold on that side. And if you put, the belts on Penta and Phoenix, that would be great. But in a lot of ways, if you do Lucha Brothers and Bucks at All Out in a cage, not that that can't be good, but you really confine two teams that do their best work when they have all of their environment to use. You're caging animals like that, caging the Bucks and Penta and Phoenix, I don't think is going to make the match very good. Yeah, they're going to be diving off the cage and shit, but I just don't think it would be as good if it was a regular match. So in a lot of ways, I'm ruling out Penta and Phoenix winning it. Which maybe ties into their current storyline with Pac or whatever. So it just depends on who comes out of that. But I don't think All Out will be the place where the Bucks drop the belts. I think it'll be a different environment of some kind. And either maybe that Arthur Ashe show would be a lot of fun, especially if they do a deal where it's like the destruction of the Elite, if that's what the entire show is centered around, perhaps. At Arthur Ashe, maybe the Bucks drop the titles. Maybe Kenny drops the world title. You tie that in with Daniel Bryan showing back up. Could be a lot of fun in Arthur Ashe. We'll have to see. Weird segment with Taz and company next. Taz is in the ring with Hook. And if you notice, Taz might have started his promo too early. When they were interviewing the Elite, you could hear Taz on the mic talking. And I think they had to tell him to shut up and wait until the backstage segment was done. But that's growing pains. They're young. They then go to the ring. Taz is in the ring with Hook. He gets on the mic, brings out Ricky Starks, who's got the FTW title. He's dressed very much like The Rock. He comes out to the ramp, and he calls out Brian Cage. Get your ass out here, Brian Cage. But there's no Brian Cage. We go to the video screen, and we see Will Hobbs wearing some just phenomenal overalls, beating the shit out of Brian Cage. Brian Cage, though, starts coming back, fighting back. Stark starts freaking out, tells him to cut the video, kill the video, and then he just scampers away. And that was the end of the segment. So, still doing all this stuff with Team Taz. It's weird, whatever. It is what it is. Then we go to a Death Triangle interview with Tony Schiavone, and Pac is talking about his upcoming match with Andrade at All Out, that up until that point was just a verbal agreement. Andrade shows up with Chavo, and he says, if you want your match, I've got conditions, and he brings out this just 1,000-page stack of paper that basically line out all of the terms that must be agreed to before this match with Pac is actually made. So when I'm looking at the promo here, I'm kind of thinking that Penta and Phoenix will turn or something. I still feel like that's going to happen. And we had kind of speculated on that prior to the match with Omega at Triple Mania, when we were all assuming, I was assuming that Omega was going to drop that title and then Andrade's going to have those belts. And, you know, I think Penta and Phoenix would wind up turning on Pac, especially since, you know, he's made more of an effort to be friends with him, and he learned a little Spanish or whatever that one week during that promo, and he seems to be, you know, a good, solid friend to have, and so they're going to turn on him and join up with Andrade, because there's been a lot of that teasing, and I can kind of see them going in that direction, and I kind of hope that they do. You know, I think Pac is very good on his own, and Andrade could do well in a stable atmosphere because he's, you know, very much about his image. Pac is more no nonsense, you know, and doesn't need a whole lot, you know, of friends or allies. And he can be, you know, sadistic, brutal son of a bitch when he wants to be, where Andrade's got the, you know, the suit and the watch and the glasses. If you remember, wasn't it Pac who actually did the very inaugural, like the very first AEW press conference with Jericho and Conrad Thompson and all that shit they did just outside? There was like hardly any people there. And I think Pac showed up in full gear. He wore everything out there, tights and boots and everything. So I don't know why I thought of that, but I think that he can just be more, you know, serious, no nonsense, doesn't need a whole lot of guys with him. And if they do the split, that could be a good way also to give Andrade the victory while keeping Pac strong. Because I don't know now at All Out if you're going to want to beat Andrade right after he lost to Kenny at Triple Mania. And he hasn't been in the ring that much as it is in AEW. So his big first pay-per-view match, I think he should go over. So if he has a little help and he wins in a shitty way, then you can kind of keep Pac a little bit strong at the same time. So they might do that. I don't know. We'll see. But that's like my hunch. My hunches are not always right. Actually, they're rarely right, now that I think about it. After that, Thunder Rosa took on Penelope Ford. Okay match. Rosa submitted her with a choke. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to this match. I was getting ready and walking around the room here, so I didn't see that match really in its entirety, but Thunder Rosa got the victory there. Then we went backstage to Arn Anderson and Brock Anderson with Tony Schiavone. Tony was the busiest dude on the show tonight, and apparently Brock Anderson has got a match next week against Malachi Black. And of course, this is because Malachi burst onto the scene by kicking Arn Anderson and then kicking Cody, and then he beat Cody. So now Brock wants a match and has got a match signed against Malachi Black, and Arn is very nervous about this, and he doesn't want the match to happen. And Brock even tells him, "Come on, Dad, don't air out our laundry here. I'm not asking you if I can wrestle. I'm telling you, I'm going to wrestle him, and there's nothing you can do anyway because the match is already signed." So Arn Anderson doesn't like it. Next week, we are all together going to witness the slaughtering of this Brock Lesnar, this Brock Anderson guy, not Brock Lesnar. We're going to witness the slaughtering of Brock Anderson. Malachi Black needs to absolutely decimate him, not only in record time, but in a brutal, vicious way to where Arn Anderson is like losing his mind on the outside of the ring. So I think that needs to be a slaying of the young fella, an initiation to the business, and Malachi, of course, will protect him. But I think in storyline, Brock Anderson needs to be completely annihilated with literally no offense. Let him get a punch or a kick in, but in the end, Black needs to put him down, and put him down easily and hard. Maybe I should have rephrased that, but you get my drift. Then we get a Jon Moxley promo. He's backstage by himself, cutting one of his Moxley-style promos, talks Omega, talks Christian, says that he'd beat Christian's should-have-stayed retired ass in a matter of minutes or something like that, and talks about his match this coming Friday, which will be the main event of Rampage against Daniel Garcia. Now, I think this bodes well to CM Punk possibly opening Rampage on Friday. That's probably where I would have it. I think somebody asked me in the stream last night where I would put, or on Monday, where I would have CM Punk's debut happen. And I kind of argued that the ending, the main event, might be good because you'll keep fans tuned in that whole time and really be able to get probably a pretty good rating if everybody's waiting for him to show up and you don't really know when. But having him open the show would be incredible. What a pop, what a moment. Plus there's no real time constraints. If he came out at the end and tried to cut a promo, he'd only have a few minutes and he'd have to worry about it. He could come out there and, they say, all right, you can go 10-ish minutes, say whatever you want. And, he can open up and say a lot, and who knows, maybe he won't say anything. I think he will. And hopefully he'll set up a match with Darby Allin. That's what I want to see. I think any future dream match, especially promo battle with MJF or Cody or anybody else that you can think of that will be really cool to see CM Punk in the ring with, I think Darby is a good entry point for CM Punk. And the match they'll have it all out is going to be really fun because CM Punk wants to make sure that not only can he, make the fans happy in his return and create a lot of buzz, that he can live up to this buzz. He's got to make sure that he doesn't suck in the ring. So if you give him Darby first, that match cannot suck. Darby is wonderful. He's so good at working with everybody, and he will give CM Punk one hell of a match. I liken it to what CM Punk did for Brock Lesnar, actually, in 2013 at SummerSlam. Because Brock's matches, even, in his short time back in the WWE, were just Germans and strikes and very slow and methodical. He had changed a great deal from when he was there back in 2004 when he left. So CM Punk kind of brought out a whole new kind of match out of Brock, because up until that point, he had really only worked with like Triple H and Cena. That was it. So Punk was a different opponent. He was a smaller opponent, somebody that could dive around, bump around, jump on him, give him a different type of offense and take a lot of different type of offense. And I think Darby can kind of do that a little bit for CM Punk and just give him a really good match, make CM Punk look really good. And Darby's a big star. Darby has won a lot of his matches, most of his matches, and a lot of those matches against big-name opponents. So for CM Punk to put him down will be a great opening victory for him and show the fans that, damn, he can have a kick-ass match. And I think it's the best way to start him off with that momentum. So Moxley having his main event match against Garcia, it's a strange place to see a CM Punk show up because honestly, not that I'm against a Moxley and CM Punk program at all in the future. That's just something that I'd rather wait on. I don't want to see CM Punk in the ring with just somebody that we've seen him in the ring with before. I mean, Punk and Ambrose did have a couple of matches, I believe, just like Punk and Rollins did. So I'd rather not see that. I'd rather have him see him in there with somebody else. Give me a Darby, give me a Cody, give me an MJF, give me somebody like that that'll just be amazing. And I think Darby Allin will be the best bet there. So that bodes well for CM Punk kind of opening the show, because I think he's got to open or close. I don't think CM Punk comes out at the bottom of the hour. I just don't think so. I think it's got to be an opening or closing the show type of deal. And this bodes well, for Moxley. Although, let me think. Moxley and Daniel Garcia 2.0. I mean, they might have set something up tonight too. So 2.0 did attack Moxley and Kingston. 2.0 had the match with Darby and Sting, and Daniel Garcia showed up in that match as well. So since Daniel Garcia got involved in that ordeal, maybe 2.0 shows back up in that match on Friday. Moxley versus Daniel Garcia, 2.0 shows up, makes it a 3-on-1 situation or something like that. And then Sting and Darby come out, and there's a brawl, and they run everybody off. Or maybe everybody brawls back into the crowd, and Darby Allin's in the ring as the smoke clears all by himself. And CM Punk hasn't come out yet. And then, boom, you cue the Cult of Personality, and he comes out. You get a little moment between Darby and Punk in the middle of the ring. Let the United Center have that holy shit moment. And then you either fade to black, or you get the stick out, and you let CM Punk do some talking. And if there's time in the show, I think you could do it that way as well. So I suppose it could go either way now that we've thought that out loud. I don't know. What do you guys think? How about CM Punk versus Andrade? Yeah, that would not be my opening match. Punk can work with everybody there. I'm not against Punk and Andrade. I'm just against Punk and Andrade on his first night. No way. Michael Cuomo, welcome back, and thanks for the $2. Can this MJF and Jericho feud end already? I think it kind of did tonight. And that's the match we're going to talk about next. Jericho versus MJF. The fifth labor of Jericho. The stipulation in this match is that the Judas effect is banned from the Joe's fruit stand. And not only is that banned, the music is banned too. So he can't come out to the song and he can't use his finisher, the finisher that he's won every single Labor of Jericho match up until now. So as we expected, MJF makes his entrance first, and then Jericho comes out. They still play the Tron, the video, but they don't have any music. And as Jericho comes out, I had mentioned in the last show that I think the way to get the fans to sing is for Jericho to kind of get them going on the mic and kind of lead them into it. I didn't see any words on the screen unless there were other screens that had like a karaoke version of the song up or something. I didn't see it, but the fans were somehow able to sing this whole entire thing pretty much in unison and in sync with each other. I thought there was no way they would pull that off, to be able to sing that way. I thought they would be all over the place and it would just suck or whatever, and they would be all on top of each other and they would never be able to get on the same page together, but they were able to do it. He comes out to the ring, they're singing, it's a pretty fun moment, and the match is underway here. These two guys brawl with each other. Jericho looked better here than he has in some of his previous matches. I mean, a lot of people have been pointing out Jericho's age and shit like that, but you know what? When you get to be 51, let's see if you can do a lion salt before you start criticizing somebody's appearance. Why don't you look your fat ass in the mirror? So a lot of people don't like Jericho's look or whatever, but he's 50. I ain't going to look great when I'm 50. I barely look great now. So it happens to all of us, happens to the best of us, and it's going to happen to you. So just wait. So anyway, Jericho's doing stuff in there. I thought he looked better, than he has in the past in the ring, and the match kind of gave us everything we thought that it would, in terms of MJF being the heel and, Jericho doing everything he can to take him out. And I think they were set up perfectly here for MJF to go over, because I'm like, what a great story. Jericho goes through all of these labors and he works so hard and he fights and claws and tooth and nail to get to this destination, and then he comes up short. Such a letdown. Maybe would be a letdown big enough to make him question his own future, which I think, could play into this now down the road that we got this finish. So anyway, Jericho cannot use the Judas effect, but he can use the walls of Jericho. He tries to use that a couple of times, but the person who really does the most damage with the walls is MJF. Puts the walls on Jericho, almost has him beat. He's got it in the middle of the ring. It takes Jericho about 5.5 minutes to actually crawl to the ropes, but he does make it there and gets to the ropes. Jericho, the bat is coming into play. What's the bat's name? I forgot. The bat has a name. Jericho uses the bat, but MJF is able to hit a Judas effect onto Jericho for a near fall, I believe. I think Jericho kicks out, but then he locks in the Salt of the Earth submission. Jericho even rolls through that for a pinning attempt onto MJF, but MJF is able to kick out and keep the hold cinched in. And eventually, after a few more seconds, Jericho taps out to MJF's finisher, and that's not the way I saw the match going. I thought for sure this would be a pinfall victory. I wasn't predicting Jericho by any means. I figured MJF would probably win this. But I'm really happy with the way he did win. I'm happy that he won, even though he threw every obstacle in Jericho's way and Jericho fought until the end. It was just a little bit too much to overcome. And the move he's used to beat everybody was, was banned. So what do? And he fought his heart out and eventually had no choice but to tap out. And I would think that this hopefully will move MJF on, and this was the whole point, is to give him a boost from this feud and give him even more heel heat than he already had. So I think he has that here. And if there ever is a confrontation with MJF and CM Punk, Punk can say something like, I'm not Jericho, I'm not the, you're bragging about beating legends, I beat that guy at WrestleMania. I tapped him out too, because he did. Remember WrestleMania 28, Punk and Jericho? He can throw that in MJF's face, and he goes, I don't think you know who you're trifling with here, sonny boy. And maybe throw that picture up on the screen of MJF meeting CM Punk all those years ago. That's going to be fucking magic. That's going to be microphone magic in the ring to see MJF and CM Punk clash for the first time whenever that happens. But that's something I'm holding off on. That's something you should make special. Don't rush that one. Make sure it makes sense. Make sure the timing is right. And have that big epic moment, on Dynamite one week or something like that with MJF. Could even be as early as next week if they wanted to do it. But I think Darby and Punk is what needs to happen. but just have MJF out there just bragging one week. It's seemingly going to be free and clear now. I mean, All Out is coming up, and MJF, I guess right now, doesn't have a match unless Jericho talks him into another one that could potentially be a loser leaves town match. But otherwise, MJF doesn't really have a match, and he's got a pretty good record. So how do you justify not giving him a title match at this point? That's actually something to think about. I actually never thought about that. So maybe it could be CM Punk and MJF. Maybe it's not going to be Darby Allin, but MJF and Punk is just something I just wait a bit on. But I don't know. I guess anything could happen. We'll have to see on Rampage on Friday. Whoever opens the show. I mean, if MJF opens the show on Friday and brags about his victory over Chris Jericho, that might be it. That could be it. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is or who I really want to see him, in the ring with first. Don't know. Howdy, partner. Good to see you, Sunny Man. I think I actually just said your name, didn't I? Or I said Sunny Boy, I think. Why wouldn't he just hit MJF with a crap ton of code breakers? Max was in prime position after all the baseball was in the baseball bat shot. Yeah, he was. I don't know why I didn't hit him with a code breaker or two. I'm not sure. Black is going to eat Brock's eyeballs. I like it. He only has the one left, right? Didn't he lose one? Making sure I didn't miss any other ones up here. Yeah, I think maybe my Dynamite reviews, I should be doing them on Thursdays because Tuesday or Wednesday nights do not draw much of an audience for some reason. So we'll maybe stick to Thursdays going forward. But speaking of Thursdays, we're going to be here tomorrow, Summerslam and Takeover predictions. I'm going to write down my notes for that tonight and start looking at those matches. I have a pretty good idea of who I'm picking mostly for these matches, but there's some up in the air. I have not seen, maybe you guys can help me. Anybody got any sort of an update or word on Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair? Is that match still on? I know they've been pulled from some house shows with no reason given, and some fans are concerned that this could be a COVID issue. I hope it's not, and I hope whatever it is does not prevent them from facing each other, because that's one of your big staple matches on SummerSlam, and that's not one I would want to lose, and that's one I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm looking through some of the news here. I do not see anything. I did see the news on Molly Holly becoming a full-time WWE producer. Congrats to her. She's somebody that I think the women's division can greatly benefit from. She is just a wonderful person. So happy for her. Good luck, girl. It's crazy backstage. So our thoughts are with you. By the way, next week on Dynamite, they did advertise a couple of matches. We talked about Malachi Black and Brock Anderson. That'll be taking place along with Orange Cassidy and Matt Hardy going one-on-one. That's all I saw on tap for next week's Dynamite. If I missed one, let me know. All right, yeah, that's about it for the news. I see no more there. Added things to the title. It's like Gone Sexual or At 3 a.m. That would be funny. I don't believe in cheap clicks. I'm not trying to get that. Otherwise, I just put bikini chicks on my thumbnails all the time. I don't think Rift Aronson that's going to be a problem. There's no way they're going to have that sold out United Center right there, and Punk's not coming back. And we talked about that in recent episodes too. You can tell, it's one thing how in the past, fans would start talking about CM Punk and everybody was like, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. This is different. I'm sorry. This is different. And we all know CM Punk by now well enough to know how he responds when things get, misreported about him. He usually lashes out, sever ties with half of his friends. Very curious what the personal relationship is with him right now and Colt Cabana. But he's ruined and burned bridges with so many friendships over the most trivial, dumb shit. When you hear these stories in podcasts or shoot interviews, I'm like, really, or whatever? So he has always just been, angry, and he takes shit personally a lot, and he just gets pissed really easily. He's always had like a short fuse. So the fact that he's playing into all of this, if this was being misreported, if the entire wrestling world was talking about him doing something that he has no intention of doing, he would lash out at the Young Bucks. He would insult AEW. He would, any sort of friend or anything or whoever was responsible for these rumors or leaks, CM Punk would never talk to that person again. He's not doing any of that. He's feeding into it. AEW would not tease the fans to this degree and not produce CM Punk on Friday. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to be extremely surprised. He better show up there because I'm looking forward to doing a live stream that night now. So he's going to be there. There's just no way he doesn't. If he doesn't show up, I think people are going to be really pissed. Unless this is the swerve of all swerves and and CM Punk does show up on Friday, but he shows up on SmackDown and not AEW. And when he tweeted out or put on Instagram those three numbers, 05, 11, and 21, he might mean the year of 2021, or he might mean the date, August 21st, which is the date of SummerSlam. So maybe Punk can show up at SummerSlam. That would be the swerve of all swerves. That would actually make me think that AEW and WWE are actually working together if CM Punk actually showed up there and AEW fed into these rumors and all of that, because John Cena was dropping CM Punk hints on SmackDown, said that he's going to leave with the belt and blow Roman Reigns a kiss or blow Vince a kiss, whatever he said. He was referencing more of that than Punk was. Could be a great way to transition John into a heel turn or something like that. Really, when you think about it, don't you think that would be the only way or the only thing, even though WWE's come out and said they're not going to have any sort of reaction to Punk and Bryan showing up in AEW, that's going to create a shit ton of buzz in wrestling for Daniel Bryan and CM Punk to jump to AEW. What could be done on the other side that could create that level of buzz? Aside from The Rock coming back or something, which, is only mildly exciting because, it's just temporary. He's just coming back and he's going to do a match and that's it. But if you actually do something that's going to create buzz from a storyline's perspective, the only thing really left is a John Cena heel turn or a John Cena-led NWO, Hollywood John, or something like that. That might be the only thing WWE could do that would match that level of buzz. Now you've got two monumental things going down in both companies. You got Bryan and Punk showing up on one company, and you got Roman and Cena both doing the head of the table, Hollywood, I'm the greatest ever type of gimmicks, both being heels doing it, and John Cena finally going in that direction and going heel. That might be it. That might be the only thing they could have to do. They could combat and maybe level off some of that AEW talk and put more of the talk on themselves. So you would also think, too, this could bode well for SummerSlam. I'm going to be there live on Saturday. So if Punk comes back on Friday night, takes over the internet the night before WWE's second biggest pay-per-view of the year, you think they're going to want to counteract that with something major happening at the show. Not just Charlotte winning the title, getting on the mic and saying, I have no more challengers, and then Becky comes out and confronts her. That's predictable. Having something major happen, having Brock Lesnar show up and confront Roman Reigns, have Big E cash in the briefcase, have John Cena turn heel. Something like that needs to happen, in order to, because we know the wrestling will be good. Seth and Edge are going to tear the house down. A lot of the matches on the show should be really good. But at the end of the day, after SummerSlam, you're still going to have CM Punk really dominating those headlines still, from a wrestling standpoint. So, and then when Bryan comes in, it's only going to compound that. So we'll see what happens. Should be good. Ben, I didn't catch that. Excalibur called the Walls of Jericho the Lion Tamer. But isn't the Lion Tamer a Boston Crab with a knee in the back of the neck? No, the Lion Tamer was the same pretty much. Sometimes he does do the knee, but the Lion Tamer and Walls of Jericho were the same move. He executed them the same in both promotions, from what I remember, in WCW and WWE. Oh, yeah, it could be. Walls of Jericho's probably trademarked. That's why. Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all. How about, what's funny about the Big Show, or I keep calling him Big Show. I just cannot call him Paul White. But Paul White's music on AEW, I love that it's like a knockoff of his WWE theme. It reminds me of in WCW when they made Hogan's theme, like a knockoff of Real American. He's American made. That song was terrible. A lot of people liked Hogan's WCW theme. I did not. I thought the WWE Real American version was 100 times better. And I'd always laughed. The WCW tried to recreate that shitty song, or recreate that with a really shitty song. And that's what Paul White's theme in AEW reminds me of, is like a cheap knockoff. Anyway. Well, this was fun. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now since not many people are into AEW, I guess. This is a fucking awesome show. I think I'm going to take this as a sign to do my AEW reviews on Thursdays. Probably the better way to do it. That way I can spend the night making notes and getting ready for shit and stuff like that. So you guys have a good rest of your night. Don't forget to be here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. We're going to do SummerSlam and NXT Takeover 36 predictions. Both cards, top to bottom, predict every match. And then, scheduling change, I will be up here after all this coming Friday, immediately following Rampage, and we're going to talk Rampage, the debut of what we assume to be CM Punk. And if he doesn't debut, then there's still going to be a lot to talk about because the internet is going to be pissed. So it's going to be a fun bunch of days out of the net. Let me see. So Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. You're getting me 4 out of the next 5 days. The only day I'm missing for streaming is Saturday, the day of SummerSlam, because I'm going to be there. So you guys have a good rest of your night, and I will catch you tomorrow afternoon for the predictions video. Y'all be good.